Sister Talk.
Hi, this is Deetra Kelsey, host of Sister Talk TV show, and this is Sister Talk after the show. And what we do is talk about topics we did not get a chance to finish talking about. My guest from the live show is still with us. Her name is Rhonda Handsome, aka Passion. That's
yes.
the name I like, that is Passion. So what are we going to talk about, Passion?
Well, I've been hearing that there is some legislation in the move that is going to cut funding to women's health centers.
Really?
I mean, radically. So there might be places where a woman may be able to only get to one or two health
really?
centers
Wow.
in their counties. I mean across the board. And it concerns me because I believe that women should be able to have open access to their rights and exercise their rights to their reproductive health,
So what's
their health.
So what do you think, what's behind that, cutting that? Is that?
I hate to say that. I think it's a backlash to patriarchy. You know, we had really, during the campaign, some ridiculous, very, very conservative responses to women's rights just around the ideas of abortion. I mean, about pregnancy, about women's health, that, you know, some of these men were discussing, you know, based on complete error and fabrication. And I got to the point where I felt like, you know what? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I think Viagra should only be available to be sold in a center where women have complete access to all of their reproductive health needs.
You know something, that's a good point there, because Viagra is supposed to stimulate the sexual organs and so forth, whereas birth control is supposed to prevent pregnancies, and we have to go to the doctor to get prescribed and so forth. But nobody knows, when Viagra first came out, people were having heart attacks. Men were having heart attacks. I mean, I think that's good enough.
It wasn't even, that was not even its primary use.
I know.
Yeah. But, you know, we women are the ones who have to carry a child. And if we don't have access to ways of controlling our bodies and helping our bodies and nurturing our bodies, how can we be good members of society? How can we be good mothers if we are overwhelmed by caretaking? I mean, there are people who are abandoning babies every single day. I mean, these poor children, you know, are not being taken care of. And there are some groups that want to keep women from being able to prevent pregnancy, even in the light of their not being able to take care of a child.
So what is your concern? Is it the reproductive health or the abortion? Not your concern, but the concern overall.
My concern comes from a very personal experience. I had to have an abortion. And it was during a time when they were illegal.
Oh, wow.
And it was, all right, I told you, I'm from the antediluvian age. And what I see is there is a march back towards that kind of feeling in the country, or it's trying to be pushed. A woman should not have to be blindfolded and spirited away and be in some place where her health might be in danger from having a simple procedure at an early enough time for her to be able to not have the fetus remain in her.
Okay, since we have someone who experienced that time when abortion was illegal, could you just give us a brief description of that experience for us?
It was a nightmare, but the only reason it was a nightmare, Deetra, and it goes back to something we were talking about earlier in the show around the hypocrisy in religion. My religious teaching prohibited even discussion of birth control.
What was your religion?
Catholicism. I grew up Catholic, even though in my neighborhood there were other Protestant churches. I grew up Catholic, and the ban on even discussing it, I mean, it was a sin to even know about it. When you are a young person growing up and you have hormones that can be overwhelming for you, you know, pushing you to express yourself, and you can't even know about something as simple as a condom, or just even thinking about that, you're told is a sin. And then when you are in the situation of as what they would call an occasion of sin, if you went in and got something to keep you from being pregnant, you've already committed a sin. So going through with it because of the overwhelming situation or the circumstances leaves you with a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, or a 16-year-old pregnant. And there was no way that I was ready to have a child at that age. And at that time, it was a nightmare, first just trying to figure out, did I have to get money together to go to a completely different country, which now a lot of the people who are trying to keep abortion fairly limited here in the United States, they have the money to go any place they need to go to send their daughters or their wives to do that. But it was a question of, can I get money together to go to London or to some other country.
So when you did do this, were you blindfolded?
Yes, I was actually blindfolded.
Are you from New York?
Yes,
so I would not see.
I had to meet at a certain location. I had to tell them what I was going to be wearing, and then once they got there, they picked me up. I was by myself. I was 15 years old. And
so did your parents know, or your friend?
My mother knew about it, and it was a terrible thing for her because she was a single mother, and she had to get that money together for this to happen, this illegal procedure. So the whole time, the whole thing was going on, I am a nervous wreck. My mother is a wreck, and that I get in a car with other young women. We are all blindfolded, and because we couldn't be able to tell anybody where it was, the facility that we went to. And we were alone. We couldn't have anybody with us.
Was it safe?
It was in a facility where it was actually safe. It was in a facility that had medical apparatus, but it was a frightening, terribly frightening experience. And I wouldn't want any young person to have to go through that just because they did not have access to information about their bodies, about their reproductive rights, how they can help themselves and nurture themselves so that they can end up being good parents, that they can end up being contributing members of society and not draining the society because they're in a situation where they are overwhelmed by responsibilities that they have difficulty meeting.
I'm sorry that you went through that. I guess society has to realize that when teenagers or children reach a certain age, your child or your niece or nephew, their hormones are raging.
But they need to have the information.
They need to have that information.
It's not to encourage them to be experimenting because that's not what I'm saying. But when you find yourself in a situation, when you find yourself in that hallway, in that car, on that beach, or wherever you are, know that there is something you can do to help yourself in the situation, not to make it worse.
We forget at that age when our hormones were bursting out at the tender age of 14, 15, and 16 years old. The information needs to be out there, not to encourage, but if you do decide to have sex at a young age, to prevent pregnancy that a lot of people such as yourself and others went through, that's what we need to do. And those health centers need to stay open.
They need to stay open, and we need to nurture ourselves, be aware of ourselves, and support ourselves.
I think that's the key, nurturing ourselves. It's okay to talk to our children about sex. This is what I'm feeling.
I love to hear you say that.
It's okay.
And I wish you would repeat it because I did not have that. And I think ignorance in this situation is not bliss. Ignorance is a disaster.
It's okay to talk to our children about sex. It's normal. The feelings that they're feeling right now, it's normal. Okay, so we're gonna stop because we have things to do. We gotta get out. We gotta get out. Okay, this is Deetra Kelsey, and I'm talking to
Miss Passion, a.k.a. Rhonda Handsome, comedian, actress, director, producer, and all-around bon vivant.
Tune in next Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. Manhattan Neighborhood Network, Channel 1, and check us out. Wishing you peace, love, and light.